This video is like an exam prep for Microsoft Outlook 2013 and also 2010. I am using Outlook 2013, but the look and the buttons are pretty much in the same place for Outlook 2010 also. I have done a separate series for 2010 and 2013 Outlook to talk about this in more detail, but in this video I'm only going to talk about the exam questions. In around 20 to 30 minutes I'm going to try to cover all the topics. If you found something which was different in 2010, just let me know. I'll try to make some notes where I can. So I'll try to group a bunch of questions together as I go through it, so it's easy to understand it. And even if you have never used it and you have to take a test, you'll know where the buttons are. So to get going, the first question they might ask you about the quick access toolbar, which are these buttons up here, where they might say that add one of the shortcuts there. So you just point here, as it says customized, you click it, and you can add any of the buttons here. So they might say add the print button or add a empty deleted items button. So any of these buttons you can add them there. If they gave you a button to add which is not listed here, then you can go to the more commands and then you can look for it here. So you can change the popular commands to all and then look for them in the alphabetical order, choose them, and you can add it. Or you can navigate through these individual options like under the home or the folder tab and then find the buttons that you want to add there and then click OK. So that's one thing. The other thing they can ask you is to create a tab to be added here. The tabs are the send and receive and the folder. These guys are called tabs and the whole thing is called the ribbon system. Now if you wanted to add your own and then put these commands in that to customize it, you'll have to go to the file button and then you have to go to options. And then from here, you can go to the customize ribbon part. And then in here, you look for a button on the bottom. It says new tab. So you click it and then it creates one. You can even rename it. And then you have these groups. So then I can even keep on adding new groups, give them a name, and then I add my buttons to those groups. So that way I can have all the buttons that I use in this one tab rather than having different kinds. And I've created this one called Amir, and if I want, it's going to remove this. I put a check mark in it and I click OK. And you'll see there's this Amir tab with group A and group B, and I've got some buttons in it. So it's very good to customize it. And this is good to know for Word, Excel, everything, PowerPoint 2010 onwards. Okay, you can go back to File, Options, and then in Customize Ribbon, I can just remove the check mark. And there's also the option to export these custom ribbons and also import them if you needed it. So you can export and import. Now while we are on this options, I'll just talk about some things you should be aware of. So under general, you've got the options like your name and your initials are there. Okay, so it's good to know where to go when they ask those kind of questions. They will ask you questions about signatures. So you will go to File, Options, and then you go to Mail. And in here, you'll see the option called Signatures. So you click it. And then a window will pop up. And then here, you can create a new one. Give it a name. So I just want to call it Test. I click OK. And now the test is highlighted. And this is where you type the signature. And you can add images or logos, and you can add your email address or website and make it hyperlink using some of these buttons. And you can choose for new messages. If you had multiple signatures, which you can do, I can choose which signature should be default. That is all the time for new messages. And for replies, if you wanted, you could have a different for that. So that's signatures. The next option is the calendars, and in the calendar you can choose whether your work calendar is Sunday to Friday or Sunday to Thursday, or so you can choose that, your start and end times, what is the first day of the week, so you can set those things, and also some of your defaults. So anything to do with calendar settings, like the overall, you'll find it under the options and then calendar. You can set your time zone in here if you wanted to do that. And there's also an option here to call add holidays. So if you wanted to add all your holidays from your country, you click it, and then you just choose which country, and then you just click OK, and the holidays of those countries will be added to your calendar. Under the people, here you can choose whether you want to show your the names of people as first and last, or last and first, or by company names. So there are a couple of options here. You can choose that. Task, again, you can set what is your reminder timings and things. So I haven't seen any of these questions here. Under advanced, there is some things that you might want to be familiar with, and I'm just going to scroll down. So they'll ask you a question about setting your send and receive options. So again, I'll just show you how to come to here. So I go to File, and then I go to Options, and now I come to Advanced. And in the advanced, I'm scrolling down and I'm looking for send and receive. I click it, and then here I can choose when do you want this automatic send and receive to happen. So I can choose it to be like every 30 minutes or every 5 minutes. So automatically it will check for incoming emails, and also if there was something sitting, it will send it out when I press the send and receive button, or even if you press the F9. So that's under the advanced option. And under the language, you can choose to add a languages so that it will do spell check for that. So that's possible to do. Okay. So that's the first thing. The next thing we need to talk about is how do you write a new email, and what are the other things to do with that. So the new email button is right here. I click it. Now I can type a name, an email address there. If I wanted to type a name that is already in my contact list, so you could just type it. So if I type a name and then if I hit tab, you see the line showing up, it means it's been accepted because I have that name in my contact list. Or if you want to be on the safe side in the exam, you can click on the TO button, and then you can choose the people, and then you can add it to the TO if it's addressed to them, or if it's just to be a carbon copy, or a blind carbon copy, which is people don't need to know who are in it, and you can also put a comma and keep on adding it. And the same thing you can do even for groups. So you see the groups have that people picture on it, the two of them, so that tells you this is a group. So you can type the name of a group and hit tab, that will also work, or just go to the TO section, because then you can search for a name. And usually in the exam, the names will show up right there. You won't have to look for it. Okay, and then you put your subject, whatever, and then this is where your message goes. And your signature showed up, whatever your default signature is, and then you hit send. So that's it. Now some of the other things you should know is how to attach file. So there is the attach file button right here that you can attach it. I can also change the signature from here, and I can say, you know what, I want the signature to be test, so that you see it changed it. I can make my email have high importance, because sometimes you want the other person to know this is a higher priority. Is it low importance? Be careful not to use it in your real life. I know somebody who does that a lot and just loses its significance. And you can always make formatting changes here. They may ask you something like that. I haven't seen that much of a thing in here, but they could, which is the same from Microsoft Word, so it's a good thing to know. Under insert, as the word implies, you can also insert files from here. You can add somebody's business contact. So I can add somebody as a business card to send it to somebody. I can also insert tables right in my message box, and I can also insert pictures. So the difference between inserting a picture is that that picture will be visible in my message box. It won't be that the person doesn't have to open the attachment. So when you attach a picture, they have to open it. With the adding the picture, it just shows up. So be aware of that wording when they say insert a picture as an attachment, and they say just insert a picture. So those are two different things. There's a lot of things in here. I'm just going to get to the important ones like date and time, so you can insert a date and time. Okay. There are some important things in the options when you are in composing messages. So in the options, you can add a request, a delivery receipt, so that when the server receives the message, you'll get a delivery receipt saying that the person's server has received it, so you know it hasn't been lost. The read receipt is when the person opens it, you get a notification about it. Now, a lot of time the way this works is if I send an email to that person, and with the read receipts, they'll open it. Right away, a message pops up saying that the other person has requested a read. So I can choose to send the read receipt or not. And that will depend on the different companies too. So all of that is under options. There is also an option to delay delivery. So I'm just going to click it. So the delayed delivery means that I've written this email, but don't deliver it until a certain date. So I could say don't deliver it till Monday, 10 o'clock in the morning. So it will sit in my outbox, and then it will go out because it's saying do not deliver before. So it will wait till that time, and then it will be gone out. So that's the option of delay delivery. Direct replies too. So here's a question they'll say that write an email. So I'm writing an email, but when the person replies, he uses the reply button. The reply should go to somebody else. So if in the reply have reply sent to, I can put somebody else's email addresses there. So when the person hits the reply button, the email will go back to them and not me. So that's the way you reply to. And another really important question that comes up is about voting options. So they'll say that you're applying to have a meeting, and there are 3 dates that you need to choose from so that we know which date works for everybody, rather than going back and forth, are you free or not. So I click here, and they have options like yes and no's. But when sometimes they will ask you to create a custom one because they want you to put the actual dates in there. So if you go to custom, and then in here where it says approve and reject, so say I wanted to decide that I want to have a get together next week or the week after that. So then I can say that okay, the dates that you need to choose from is April 28 semicolon April 29 semicolon April 30th. So then they will choose one of those options. When they get the email, they'll get a list, and that's the way the voting option works. And usually they'll ask you like a custom one. They won't just say yes and no, they'll say to put one of these things. So these are the options in the options, and then there are the color options that if they said add a theme, so you can pick something to apply to it. Under format text, you have options for all the formatting again, which is also available in this message option, but it's just there in the formatting. And under review, you can look for all the questions related to spelling check. You can also use the thesaurus and also the word count. And also if you wanted to set it to a different language, which I don't think so, they asked that question. And then I just have to hit send, and that's it. If I wanted to save this message in my draft, I'll just hit the save button here on the top, or when I click on file, I can click save. Okay. And you may get a question about asking you to save a message as a template. A template means that this is like a setup of email which is already set up, and then you can use it all the time. So to do that, you go to save as, and then in the save as, you're going to choose to save it as a template. On the bottom where it says save as type, you're going to choose to save it as an Outlook template. And you see it will save it in the template folder automatically. Give it an appropriate name and save it. So if I call it test, for example, and I hit save, so now it is saved. And if I close this, and even if I don't save this message, my template is saved. Okay. But if I had said yes to it, it will show up in the draft as something waiting to be going out. Some really simple things. In the home tab, I can choose to delete messages, so just choose it and hit delete. From here itself, I can hit reply. Now sometimes you might find that the message is open, and then they'll say to hit reply. So then you'll have to look for the reply button in the open window. So you'll see the reply button in the open window, or the forward. And there's the forward option, or reply all, which you should never use it. Be very careful using it. And the forward option. And you might also be asked to print, so you could just even right click on it and the right click works in the exams and you can do quick print. Or if you had one of the messages open, then you can use the file button and then you can choose print. So either way, if the window's open, use the file button. If it's not open, then you can use the file button from here to print something. So all of those options are here: forwarding, deleting. You can also move these messages in folders. So I click on it and I can move it to any of my folders that are already created, or else I can go to other folder, and now I can choose that I want to create a folder. So they'll ask you a question about that: create a new folder and move this message to that folder. So while in the process itself, I can go to move, other folder, and then they say make a folder under inbox. Then you have to click on inbox, click on new, and I'll create test folder, and I click OK. So now when I click OK, this message gets moved in the test folder, and I can move it back to inbox. So now it should be back in the inbox. Oh, didn't move. Let's try it again. Move inbox. Now it did. So now it's moved to inbox. So those are the options under the home tab. Move. They'll ask you a question about creating rules. So if you think about, the rules are like, you can create rules to say that if I get an email from my manager, you should move it to the test folder. Or I can say that if you get these type of messages, you can put it to delete or junk folder or something like that. So those are the rules. So you click here and then you can click on create rule, where you can create some quick rules. But if you wanted more control, you have to go to rules and then click on manage rules and alerts. And then from here, you get to create the new rule and then just follow the steps. So say if I wanted to say that move messages with specific words in the subject to a folder, so I click it, and then I click next. And now I can say I want specific words or any other things that I wanted to add. So there's a lot of stuff. They'd always be very clear as to what you need to do. So you want to mark it as important and things. And now I can click on the specific word and then put the word. So I say, you know what, the word is Monday. I can add it. And I can add multiple words. And then I click next. And then I can choose to move it to a specified folder. And now on the bottom, I click on the specified folder. And then I can choose to move it. And then I click next. And then if there are any exceptions, like people or something, then I can choose the exceptions next. And then I can give this rule a name. And if I want, I can run this rule on my inbox right now so that it will automatically move all the emails. So it's a very good way to get your inbox organized very quickly. And then I can click finish. And I can always go back and click on a rule and delete them if I wanted to. And I can click OK. So that's the idea of creating rules. There is a button here called follow up. So that is like if you got an email from somebody and you can quickly put a follow up for tomorrow so that you'll get a reminder, and you'll see a reminder on the side here too, because you'll see a flags on it. So that's a good way to do it. You can also set a custom reminder if you wanted to. So you can put a reminder about that. So that's the follow up, and you'll see that option showing up all the time. Send and receive button, which is also available up here. So they might say send and receive emails. So that means send anything that's waiting and receive the new ones, which you can do. We can force it every minute if you wanted to, rather than wait for 15-30 minutes, which is the default. I think the default is 15 minutes, I think. Maybe they've done it 30 minutes now. And there is one thing up here, it's called quick steps. So these are like, they might say that create a quick step so that whenever you want to write an email to your manager, it just automatically shows up, rather than you having to go into new email and then typing the manager's email account. So if you click on this to manager, and then you see I had like created one, so it automatically showed up there. But you can go quick steps, this button here, which stands for managing it, click it, and then you can click on new, and now you can create new quick steps. Or you can click on something, create a duplicate, and then just change which group is this email going to. So that's the question about quick steps. Searching emails is very easy, so they will ask you questions about searching, so you can just type it in here, the search part, and you see there's the search tools that are shown up. I mean, from that you can choose to search from person it's come from, by subject, so you could do that. Or in the home, they might give you a question about filter the email, so that gives you an idea that I'm looking for the word filter email, and then you can choose this week, today, so I can find just today's or flagged or important, or so some of the other filters you can apply. So there are two ways to searching it if you wanted to. They might ask you a question about that empty your trash can or empty your deleted items. So up here there's the deleted items. You right click on it and you'll see an option called empty. Till the time you don't empty it, all your messages are always sitting in the deleted items. So you could go back and then you can drag it and move it to your inbox. So you can always left click and hold it and drag these messages to wherever you want to move it. So that's also a possibility in here. And one last thing I want to do here before I go to the next part is that they might ask you a question about to create a new message based on a template. So to create new emails from templates, you go to new items, more items, and then you go to choose from. And then from this drop down button here, you change it to user templates. And then you see your other ones I created, and I created this one called test, and I click open. So there's my test. And it usually duplicates the signature. So if you want it in your templates, you don't want to put the signature in real life because then the signatures show up twice. So you just want to have maybe remove the signature from it. Okay. So that's the option to create templates. The next thing I want to talk about is the view option. So anytime you had questions about where they wanted you to affect the view, this is where you'll be coming. So what can you do in the view? The first thing I can do is the show as conversation. So they might ask you a question about that, because in the old ways, I don't know if it was possible in 2007, you could not arrange your messages by the thread. So you know, when I'm going back and forth, all of them used to be single emails. So now you can combine them as a thread, so that you don't have 10 emails. They all are part of one email. You click it and it expands. So that's the show as conversation. You might get the options about message preview. So that is like, do you want to see the preview of your message right underneath here? So I can have like either 1 line or 3 lines or 2 lines so that I can read it right here and I don't have to open the email or look on the right hand side. The other thing you can view is your folder pane, that is normal, or you want to turn it off. So you see the folders is the left hand side. All of that is gone. So I want to have my folder normal, or you want to have it minimized. So it's still there. I just have to click it for it to show up. I prefer to be normal. The reading pane is this part. When I click on a message, I can read it on the right hand side. So I can choose to have it on the bottom part up here, or I can even have it off, because once I have it off, I can choose to have the message preview. So that way I don't have to have the reading pane, but I like the reading pane either on the right or the bottom. The to-do bar is this section here, which shows me my calendar, my task, or any appointments coming up. They are listed here. So I can turn it off, or I can choose to have just a calendar or people or the task. So those are the options under the view part. They'll ask you a question about view the reminder window. So you go to view and you click on the reminder window, because this is where all your reminders are there. They'll be reminding you about your appointments and tasks that are waiting to be done. So you can view it. And you can view all your inbox messages by date, or you can choose to put it alphabetically from, or by to, or you can do it by flags. And there's some more options. You can say just show the attachments on the top. So you can do that. And you can also do the reverse sort here, so you can put things in A to Z or Z to A using that. So anything to do with view, you'll find all the answers in the view part. There's also the folder tab. If you wanted to, you could go to it to create new folders. If you wanted to do that, you can do it from here too, rather than from home and then move the other folder. So you can do that either way, and that will work. And the send and receive, where you can choose to send, receive all folders, because sometimes you might have more than one email address, so you can choose if from send and receive groups, you can choose whether you want to sync one email account or just all of them. So you can do it from here if you wanted to do that. Now, just the last few things I need to talk about is how do you create contacts, calendar appointments, and your task and your notes. So there are a couple of ways of doing it. I can go to new items and I can choose to create a new contact right from here. Or on the bottom, you see there are these buttons here. So I think in Outlook 2010, I'm thinking you might see options here called calendars and contact list. In 2013, they used the symbols here, the people. So when I click it, so in 2010, you click on contacts. Now you can start creating contacts from here using the new contact option. I'm just going to remove this Amir tab. Okay. So I can click on new contacts. So they'll ask you a question about creating new contacts. So you can do it from here, fill up the names, and then save and close. You can also click on any one and you can delete the contacts. And you can just edit it by using the edit option, or you can right click and you can delete it too if you want to, or you can edit the contact. So right click is a good way to remember it. And they might ask you questions about that, view your contacts in a certain way. So you see the words here, so they'll tell you the words. You can say business card or the card view. So there are different ways that you can view your contacts, so you can do that. I think the people view is new for 2013. I don't think so it was there in 2010. Okay, so just be aware of that. You can also create new contact groups. So you click it, give it a group name. So I wanted to say Thursday meeting group, and then once I type a name of the group, I can add members to it from my Outlook contacts. And then I just double click on them and you see they're getting added. And I click OK, and they are added in there. I save and close, and that group is added. And you see the difference is that they have more than one person's picture in it, so that tells you this is a group rather than an individual. So that's the way you do it. And I'm just going to flip you back to mail. So in 2010, on the left hand side, you see a word mail, contacts or address, calendar, and task appear. In 2013, they just have the symbols here on the bottom. So from here too, you can go to new contact, but they don't have the button for new group contacts. So you will need to flip over to the contacts and then choose the button to create new group contacts. In 2010, you may need to click on the drop down button here, and then you'll see group contacts. I think it might be there too in that way. If I come back to mail. So that's the way you add individual contacts. One more question they might ask you about contacts is they might say to email that contact to somebody. So if you go to the contact list and say I wanted to email John Doe's contact information to somebody, so I can right click on it and then I can forward the contact as a business card. And when I do that, it will be as an attachment and I can send it to somebody if I wanted to. So I've seen that question sometimes. The next we'll talk about is the calendar. So when I click on the calendars on the bottom in 2013, in 2010, you look for the word calendar, and they'll say to create a new appointment. So I can click it, type the name of the appointment, choose the date using the calendar, and the end date, and the time. So you can set it if it's an all-day account, and then if whatever messages they want to put in the appointment, they may not say something, but they may ask you to show as busy or free, and when do you want your reminder. And do you want recurrence? That is, does this appointment keep on occurring every week, every month? So if I go to recurrence, I can choose, is this a daily occurrence, weekly, monthly, or yearly? And sometimes they'll say, set a weekly meeting, but it's going to end after 5 occurrences or by a certain date. So just follow the steps as they give you. So in the new, you are looking for the word recurrence. You can also set your calendar appointments as high importance, low importance, or you can make it private in your personal one. So that's, you can do it from there. And then you just hit save and close, and it will be added. Once it's in your appointment, you can always right click on it and delete it, or you can double click on an appointment and you can edit it. So you can do that if you needed to do it. And you'll see on the top you also get the calendar tools to make changes to them. If I click away, the calendar tools should go away. Okay. Now when I'm in the calendar, I can view my calendar by work week or by month view. So there are different ways to view it, and you'll see this option in 2010 also. So you can see that. Now another question they'll ask you is about creating an appointment and also inviting people to that appointment. So in the work setting, you can do that. As you are creating it, you can even email them. They get an email where they can choose whether they're going to be accepting that request or not. So you'll get a notification back saying that the so-and-so has accepted your invitation or they've rejected it. So to do that, you click on the new meeting button. So you see the TO section shows up automatically. So you can start adding the people who need to be there. So I can even add a whole group if I wanted it, or individually. And I can also choose who's optional, and also the resources, if there was somebody in charge of the room who needs to know about it. So I can do that. And then the subject, location of the room. So all of that stuff is the same. And also you can set your how should you be seen on your calendar, because in a work environment you can see each other's calendar, so you want to use this properly. Reminders, recurrences, importances. You can even insert attachments to give it to people so you can send it. Now when you have those people's names in here, you can also check out their schedule. And I'm going to go to it. I was having a tough time last time because it was crashing on me. So if I just click it, let's see if it works. And you can see the calendar here, you see. And I think my system's going to crash anytime, but you can see whether they are busy or not. So my Outlook did crash and I just came back, create another one. And you can always cancel the invitation. I'm just going to close this. And now, even if I'm in the new appointment, you'll find that there is the button that says invite attendees. So you'll see that option from year 2 when I click it, and I've got the TO section. So you can do that. So these are the calendar related questions. Now the last two really simple thing is, one is to do with task and the other one is notes. So there's the task button here on the left, on the bottom. Again, in 2010, look for the actual word itself. And what are tasks? Simple stuff, fax something or call somebody up. So I can create a task for it. So I can click on new task and then just type it. Whatever the task is. I can even set start date, end date, status, have I started it or not? Is it completed certain percentage? You can set recurrences, and you can also assign the task to somebody else. If I click it, I can email this task to somebody else, and then I can hit send. I can cancel the assignment. So if I choose something and I can save and close, I can also set it private. And the task is there. I can right click on it. So you'll get a question about mark as complete. So you right click it and you can mark it as complete. So remember the right click, because anytime you don't know where things are, think about the right click option, because right click will give you the options to do two things. Okay. So that's the task option, and you can always right click and delete something if you don't need it. I'm just going to come back to the mail, and from here too you can create your task. And I think in 2010, the new mail drop down button, there might be a drop down. From there, you'll be able to create contacts and calendar appointments and tasks from there. Or just go to that individually in the exam. Both ways will work. Now, the last thing is I want to talk about is notes. And to do that, I'll have to click here, and there's the notes section. In 2010, you'll see it on the bottom somewhere. You might see like a notes type symbol. So you go to it, or you'll see the dots. So you go to notes. So this is where I can write notes, and I can, so whatever things I want, I can put it in there, and I can close it, and then the message will be here. And I can see the notes as these type of symbols. and I can double click on them, and if I click here, I can even give like some kind of a coloring category. So if it's all the telephone numbers, I can say give them yellow color, and I can even give it a name. So these will be like regarding telephone numbers are yellow in color. You can forward a note to somebody, and you can also delete a note. Or if you right click on it, you get the options to forward, print, delete. It's there. I'll come back to inbox. So I believe that pretty much covers up all the questions, and I just have one last thing to talk about is vacation responder. So they'll give you a question about creating a email message so that, or a message that will tell people you are away on vacation. Now I cannot show you to do it in this setting because I don't have access to Microsoft Exchange server, because that's where it will work, because all you're trying to set is that I'm going to be away till this date, so whenever you get an email it automatically replies back. So to send automatic reply to emails, which in the previous versions they used to call it out of office. So for the automatic reply, when you click on the file button, around here somewhere you'll see the word automatic reply, and just to show you, you see up here when they click on file under info, which you come to by default, you will see the option called automatic reply. In my case I don't have it because I'm not connected to Microsoft Exchange server, and just follow the steps and that should do it. If you were using this at home, you may be able to use it with a template and then create a rule for that, so that when you get your computers on, you get emails, it will automatically reply back to people with that template message if you wanted to do that. So I believe this pretty much covers up all the things that you may need to know for Microsoft Outlook. Thanks for watching and all the best.